Welcome to Her Career Studio. I'm your host and career coach, Lisa Virtue. Here we live by the mantra, thrive at work so you can thrive in life, because we know you are more than your day job. Each episode includes actionable tips and often mentor stories to not only boost your professional success, but also enhance your personal well-being. Join me as we explore ways to ensure your career uplifts your life as you strive to achieve work-life harmony. Head to hercareerstudio.com for free resources and coaching services to help support you during career transitions and challenges, such as when you are looking to find and land that next ideal job or promotion, or are leading a new team. We're here to support you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And please hit the thumbs up or leave a 5-star review if you are finding the content useful. This helps us keep going in our mission to help women in their careers. Thank you so much for your support. Welcome to the Her Career Studio podcast. In today's enlightening episode, we are going to dive into the unique challenges and transformations that are faced by mothers when they make that pivotal shift from full-time parenting to re-entering the workforce or starting their own business. Whether you've taken a break to raise children or are looking to reshape your career path around your family life, this episode is packed with insights, tips, and real-life stories for you to inspire you and guide you. My guest, Bonnie, and I discussed the mental and emotional journey women undergo in this time period, touching on issues like rebuilding your confidence, leveraging motherhood skills in a professional setting, and overcoming internal barriers through mindset shifts. Bonnie Wiscombe has been an entrepreneur for over a decade. She is also a certified coach and homeschool mom of 10 children. Yes, 10. Which means she knows how to get stuff done. Bonnie specializes in helping women become entrepreneurs by teaching their basic tech, marketing, and confidence necessary to build their business of their dreams. In this episode, Bonnie shares her personal journey from planning a career in healthcare to embracing full-time motherhood, and how her side hustles have evolved into fulfilling professional pursuits as her family grew. Despite the hurdles, she emphasizes the importance of realigning with one's values, staying flexible, and finding joy in each phase of life. We discuss the valuable yet often undervalued skills that mothers bring to the table, from multitasking to project management, and how these can be powerfully applied in their new career phases. We also talk practical advice on finding mentors, updating your tech skills, and the importance of emotional regulation. So whether you're a mother looking to make a transition or someone supporting them, stick with us to discover not only how to navigate these changes, but also how to thrive in them. Enjoy this episode. Bonnie, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. One career mama to another. I do not have as many children as you, but I definitely appreciate anything about moms transitioning careers or from their day job to their night job and their night job to their day job. It's so much, isn't it, that we all are doing all day long. So I really appreciate your time being here.
Yeah, of course.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your own personal journey when it comes to your career and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Oh yeah, I have a fun story. You guys are going to like this. So welcome to everyone. I'm Bonnie Wiscombe. Thanks for having me, Lisa. I actually started off planning to go to PA school. I graduated right before my husband and I got married. And then I went in to do all my prereqs for my master's degree, did the work experience I needed, all the things. But we knew we wanted a large family. So I went ahead and started having babies and thought, totally going to be a working mom. It's going to be fine. I thought I'll make this work. I'm going to probably do a lot of part-time and then my kids get to kindergarten and I'll go full-time, whatever. And then I went all the way through the PA school interview and I walked out of that interview and it was like a lightning bolt hit me and was like, you're not going to do this right now. It was definitely some heavenly intervention. And I honestly, at the time was a little bit crushed. I was like, well, I could have used this news a few years ago, right? Before I went through all this work.
Yep. Never the right time. It always feels like in the moment, doesn't it?
Totally. But at the same time, I will say there was some peace there. Like, okay, I'm going to be a mom for a little while and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for probably about 8 years. I was primarily a stay-at-home mom. And then we kept having kids. At that point, I had about 6. And I thought, you know what? This full-time mom gig is harder than I thought. And my brain needs something. So I started some side hustles. I started a blog. A couple of years later, I started a podcast. So just a few things to keep my mind sharp, help me make an impact in the world and do something that really felt like I was using my skills and my education. And little by little, my businesses have grown as my kids have. And now that the youngest one is here and not a baby anymore, it feels time to be that that career phase, right? So I'm amping up my business and really stepping into that. But it's been such an interesting journey because I had all these plans, right? As we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And being a working mom is so different for every person. And so I feel like for me, the predominant storyline has been just listen, just watch, pay attention. There's going to be signs that tell you what to do and what's right for you right now. You might not know what it is. You might not always love the change that's
Mm-hmm.
coming at you, but you will settle into it and then you will build a life that you love in that phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So how many children do you have total?
So we have 10. My
Yeah.
oldest is 18 now, and my youngest is 3, although I forgot how naughty 3-year-olds are. So she still requires constant supervision. But when I'm working, we either have childcare and one of my older kids, they're all very, very helpful too. So yeah, very busy household. So like I said, it's been many years trying to balance all that and figure out where my career is coming in and what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet that 3-year-old has so many little watchers, right?
She does, but sometimes they just assume she's there playing somewhere safe and she's making a mess somewhere. I'm like, okay, we all got to work on making sure
Yes.
that the glue stays out of her hands as 3-year-olds are
Right.
wont to do.
Yeah, I was one of those kind of like nannies of one of 5, and the 3 youngers were 7 years to 10 years my junior. So I was the like live-in
Okay.
nanny. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
definitely true. Like even with the siblings, they don't ever replace the moms and dads
No,
completely.
nope.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, you still have a lot on your plate. So 10 children. Um, it sounds like pretty ambitious before you even started having children, and you really valued your education and doing
Mhm.
that secular work. And so tell me a little bit more about that journey of like mentally. I know you were talking about how, divine intervention or whatever it is that happens to us,
Mhm.
whatever people are that are listening, whatever their belief system is, the universe, something is intervening and helping us clarify that path. When someone is going through that in your own journey as well, please feel free to include that. What are some ways that people can navigate it in a way that can feel productive?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it first starts with just being very clear about your value set. Okay, what do I believe? What is important to me? And like you said, yes, I was ambitious and I had big goals and dreams for my life, but I also knew that my value set looked like being a mom was going to be very important to me. I didn't feel like it was going to ever be my identity. That never felt like part of my journey. It was going to be a big part of my role in life, but I also knew I was going to have a career in education and everything else. So I think we each have to get very clear on what is my value set. I knew that my family's going to come first for a long time, mostly because I had so many children. But
Mhm.
then even then, I wasn't sure if I was going to be okay with daycare. Was I going to need childcare in the home? What was that going to feel like? And just to be very open to changing plans. Like if I had had a very rigid mindset around physician assistant school, then we'd be having a very different conversation, right? Because I would have pushed forward, but instead I was able to listen. And I'm not always able to. I'm not trying to say that I always have it
Yeah.
do the right thing, but at that time, I think I was able to just kind of listen both to my own intuition and to being flexible to maybe there was a better plan. And I'm so grateful for the plan that has happened in my life. It hasn't always been easy. The years of full-time motherhood, I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind. How does anybody do this? This drives me crazy. And then, of course, additional challenges when you are working too. So, yeah, getting very clear with your values, being flexible, and then being very willing to feel peace no matter where you are. Maybe you are in a phase of working more than you would like to be. You'd like to be home more. Maybe it's vice versa. But working on staying present and being peaceful wherever we are is going to bring us the most joy no matter what's going on.
For sure. That presence is so key, isn't it? Well,
Hmm.
and you touched on so many things I'd like to recap. One is that there are a lot of moms, and probably a lot of the listeners on this podcast in particular, because the people that I talk to, where it's they don't feel their calling necessarily is to be full-time stay-at-home mom forever.
Hmm.
And even when you look at it biologically, most women's is not,
It
right?
doesn't
So
last that long.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And some, like, we're going into this respite help for foster parents. So we're in this world of fostering. And even that, like, that is not a career per se because it doesn't pay the bills, right? There's not enough income for things like that. So even if you do want to have longevity, they also cut you off, right?
Yeah.
You can't be a foster parent forever because you get older. So I see this a lot with women when they either decided to take a break, but did it intentionally from the workforce and did a whole different job, which we know is more than full time, being a mama and staying home with their kids and helping raise them. And then there's this evolution of, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And some people have like a fallback, or they knew that they were going to do that. And I see other women that are just kind of thrown in going,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I need to figure this out now that my kids are in school full time or they're older. And also it'd be nice to be able to pay for that college or whatever those resources are that we get from our careers too, right? To help our family.
Mm-hmm.
So you had that pretty intentional. Did you have a vision of like what this would look like when I'm later in life, when I go back into the workforce? How did that evolve for you?
I actually did not. It was surprisingly, because you would have thought I would have thought, all right, when am I going to get back out of the house and be able to do something?
Right.
But I didn't. Honestly, I felt peace going forward. And frankly, 8 years down the road, I was like, well, I'm actually really glad, because working would have been almost impossible for me with all these little babies. But what's so interesting that you say that is that's kind of my focus with my coaching business right now, is I coach a lot of moms who want to build businesses. And very often it's that stage of life where their babies are no longer babies. Maybe they're just hit kindergarten, or maybe even their oldest is already in college, but they have some younger ones and they're like, oh, there's like 50 years left in my life.
Yes.
And for some reason, when our babies are little, we love to kind of fall into that trap of it's going to always be like this. And it
Mhm.
just isn't. Even when I've had babies in my home for 16 years, but
Mhm.
it's over. Like it just,
Right.
and kind of, and I sound like an old lady when I say it, but kind of in the blink of an eye, right? It really
Mhm.
does pass relatively quickly. And so what are the days are long, but the years are short, right? Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's so
But
true.
to acknowledge, yeah, that time lasts for a long time afterwards, and to just start thinking about it, even if you're not ready, or maybe that you want to go back full time eventually, just start thinking, what's that going to look like? What's that going to feel like? What are my kids going to be doing? How are we going to balance the things at home? I think that's a really powerful reminder.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know when we first met and talking about phases in life and accepting
Mhm.
those different chapters and also acknowledging that there are different chapters. I think
Yeah.
to your point, probably is biological, right? Where the biology is like just get you through the day. You're not
Yeah.
thinking as long term because you got to keep
Yeah.
other humans alive
Yeah.
and yourself.
This is true.
So yeah, so it makes a lot of sense that it's just not something, and having the space and the time to do that work, I know can also feel very daunting or just not available for a lot of moms. So
Mhm.
when they're in that transition state, right? Transition's the hardest.
Mhm.
Looking at it like, okay, that phase of my life is transitioning. And now what does my next phase look like?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me say too that I think that when we look at it from that perspective, it feels very natural and welcoming. Sometimes we think of the next phase almost like, we focus too much on the ending. Oh, my babies are all big now. I
Mhm.
have to go do this thing. But instead, it's just this blossoming, right? I don't think that the caterpillar is sad when he has to crawl into the chrysalis. He knows it's just time to move on. And
Mhm.
what comes out is this beautiful thing. So to acknowledge that this is a beautiful phase, and the next one will be equally beautiful, just with different challenges and different blessings.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So when a mom is going from full-time mama to, now I call it career mama. I even wrote a book called Career Mama, right? Where I say you have two careers because it's a portfolio of your work. Raising your children
Hmm.
is a beautiful portfolio of the work you have put into this earth and this life.
Hmm.
And then you've got this secular career when you're a professional and you're getting paid for the work you're doing. What kind of steps do you have women go through? Maybe they're looking to start a business or be flexible with their career. What do you have them
Hmm.
first look at?
Well, honestly, one of the first things we talk about is the confidence issue. Because if you think back to when you were 18, 19, 20, like maybe wrapping up college, thinking about what kind of career you wanted to step into, you had some really wild, crazy confidence that you did not earn. Most of us were like
Mhm.
22, like, what are we going to do with
True.
our life?
Yes.
The sky was the limit, and we had no business being that confident. We knew nothing, right?
Yeah. By the way, if you want a little confidence boost or energy boost, just hang out with the age group, right? I
Totally.
do a lot of volunteering with those age groups and I love it because I'm just like, woo, there's that energy coming.
Nonstop energy. Yeah, you're like, I just need a nap. Totally true.
Yeah.
But then we go out into the world, and whether we start our families or we go into the workforce or both. And what I've seen happen, especially with those who choose to stay home with their families primarily for many years, is this gradual decrease in confidence. And when they go back into the workforce, it's like, oh, I don't remember this. I don't remember that. I don't what do I wear for an
Mhm.
interview? Like, what is Google Sheets? And
Mhm.
the lack of being in the working world for a long time really makes their confidence take a hit. So that's one of the first things we talk about. First of all, we talk about all of the amazing skills that you build as a mom. Because
Mm-hmm.
if there's anybody I want to manage a project, it's a mom who knows how to balance, right? Like 3 pediatrician
Absolutely.
appointments and a birthday party and make sure dinner gets on the table, right? We have some incredible skills. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't happen to be monetized generally
Right.
in the world, right? So to focus on that and then to also remind ourselves that it is going to feel a little awkward. It does feel kind of like just your very first job, like back you like the first one you had right out of college, right? So acknowledge that, be gentle with yourself, but really work on that and remind yourself that you have all the skills and tools you need to go out and re-enter the workforce, and whatever you're missing can easily be picked up because you're intelligent
Mm-hmm.
and totally capable.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on that for a second too, because my change management background is the awareness, desire, and then you have to have the knowledge and abilities to actually move forward that change, right? One thing that I will recommend to all the moms that are listening that are thinking about this transition, or anyone that's looking to do a career pivot too, is just talk to people about it, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot, like you mentioned, Google Sheets. It's a good point. There's a lot of moms that just don't know what is the latest tech. Have I been using
Mhm.
it at home? You might have been. There might
Right.
be things you actually are using that are in the
Mhm.
workforce.
Mhm.
But if you just find that mentor, someone you can sit down with or coach, and you can ask, okay, what are some just basic skills? What should I start
Mhm.
YouTubing for free or going to
Yeah.
an online course? Just brush up on those things. And it doesn't take a lot of time, right? This is the
Right.
point of moms are so capable and quick learners, really.
Yeah,
Find
absolutely.
that.
There's nothing we can't pick up. And this happens with a lot of the women I coach surrounding business, right? They get so overwhelmed at the idea of all this tech and all this software I have to figure out. And I'm like, look, if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. All it takes is
Right.
a handful of YouTube videos. But I love your point of pull
Mm.
someone aside. Maybe you are looking at a business pivot, a career pivot, and you're thinking, maybe I want to go into this industry. Yeah, find a mentor, find a friend, say, can I just pick your brain over lunch? Tell me what are the 3 programs I'm going to need to use day in, day out?
Mhm.
How can I get started with them? Could I hire you for a couple hours to take a look at them? Like,
Right.
how can I increase my confidence and skill level so that when I go into an interview, or I go look into these opportunities, I feel so much better about myself.
Absolutely. Because it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I'm just going to go research it online. Ooh, there's so much noise
A
out there,
lot.
people. In every industry. I mean, yeah, and you're going to get conflicting information. So just
Mhm.
cutting to the chase and being really vulnerable and asking for
Yeah.
help is what
Yeah.
we're also saying, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Oh man, what else would you like to tell the moms that are looking to go back to work or start a business?
Yeah. One of the concepts that I teach a lot is that of cognitive dissonance. So, what that means is like when our brain doesn't match up with our current actions. So, like, let's say, for example, you do really want to go back to work full time. Your kids are in school and you're thinking, this is the time for me. But your brain is like, has this narrative going on, right? You can't do it. You're out of practice. You don't remember your skills. Whatever certificate needs to be redone, whatever, re upped. So, you've got this narrative going on. And it is extremely difficult for your mind and body to get to work doing something your brain does not believe in.
Mhm.
So that's one of the pillars of my coaching is that we take a look at that brain and we pull out those little poisonous narratives and we say, what does your brain really believe here and why? And there's always a reason. We don't want to, get mad at our minds for the way they're thinking. There's a reason, right? Maybe
Mhm.
there is some proof that you don't know the software that's the most current. Maybe there is some proof that yes, your certificate is expired and you have to go figure that out. But all of that is optional. All of these thoughts and narratives are optional. We get to change them at any time. And sometimes it sounds a little woo, like, well, I'm just changing my mantra here and everything's going to be okay. But that really is the power of the mind. If we can switch into something that also feels believable, right? So yes, maybe I don't know how to use a software, but I've learned software programs in the past. I'm very capable. You just switch it that much, and all of a sudden you have this very powerful narrative that is then moving you forward instead of keeping you stuck. So the power of that brain, I don't think can be overstated.
Absolutely. Because it's trying to keep us safe, right? This is the
Yes.
neuroscience tells us about the amygdala.
Right.
It's just trying to survive, but it hasn't evolved to the place of we are not typically in that fight, flight, or freeze
Right. Right.
situation. So it's making up these stories for sure. I liken them to limiting beliefs too, right? This
Yep.
very same concept where what is limiting you from taking action? I just had a client the other day where big dreams to move across the country, do similar work, but in a whole different place. And a lot of it was just this line of questioning and having someone to talk to about going through that.
Yeah.
Okay, what is limiting you? And then when people see it and say it out loud, it's like, oh, well, duh,
Yes.
I know what to do
Right.
about that.
hmm
But having someone that can support you in that is so
Yeah.
valuable. Mhm.
One of the first tools I teach some of my clients is to do what I like to call a brain dump. So when we're feeling really stuck or like we just can't move forward, we just sit down with a piece of paper and we write down all the thoughts that are coming up around this specific topic.
Mhm.
And very often, like 4 or 5 thoughts in, we're like, oh, well, that's problematic. Right?
Yes.
Like we're harboring these stories and we have no idea that they're there, but they
Mhm.
are kind of poisoning the well, so to speak. And once we get them out, our higher brain is like, oh, well, I don't believe that. That's not true at all.
Right.
Right. And she can kind of take over again, going, okay, lower brain, I get it. You're scared. You're freaked out. You think we can't do this, but actually, I think we can. Right. You just kind of have this
Mhm.
little
Mhm.
conversation with yourself and go, all right, we're going to shift this thought right here because I can absolutely tell that this one is going to cause us some problems.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. The internal dialogue
Yeah.
with yourself.
You might feel crazy. It's totally normal.
Yep. But very important to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. What other tips do you have for the listeners?
Yeah, well, I would love to teach your listeners the what we call the life coaching model and how it works with their brain. So I like to call there's a couple of different ways to refer to it. I like to call it the head, heart, and hands model. And
Hmm.
so what that looks like is basically just how stimulus enters our brain and what we do with it. Right.
Mhm.
So basically, stimulus happens. Something happens outside of us. Our head makes a story about it, gives us a
Mhm.
thought. Our heart then processes that story into some sort of an emotion. Then we
Mhm.
feel something. And then it moves into our body where our hands either get to work or become paralyzed, regardless, depending
Mhm.
on what the feeling is that we're feeling. And then we have some sort of result. So a simple example might be, let's say you're thinking about going back to work. So the stimulus is job opportunity. The thought is probably something like, I don't know if I can do this. And then
Mhm.
the emotion would be something like fear,
Mhm.
reluctance, right? And then
Mhm.
the action or maybe inaction could be sitting around doing nothing to further myself, to
Mhm.
apply to the job or to brush up on my skills. And the result is I don't get this opportunity
Yeah.
because my brain took over. So following that path is really, really beneficial. So when you do that brain dump, if you can pull out a thought that's problematic and then stick it in that model, say, okay, I've got this thought. That's what my head's doing. What is it making my heart do? What is the emotion that's coming from that? Because
Mhm.
emotion drives everything, right? If we
Mhm.
can get to the root of the emotion, then we know this is why I'm sitting around and not doing anything. It's not because I lack motivation. It's because I keep telling myself that's not going to work out.
Right.
So that model has
That's
been
a
really,
beautiful
really helpful.
model.
Yeah.
I think sometimes two people feel first, right? So they might be feeling something and then they have to find the thought. So I'm sure it
Yes.
plays with itself. Like the model could go both ways.
Yeah, you can, in
Um,
fact, very often I'll ask them, what are you feeling right now? Because
yeah.
sometimes we can't identify the thought until we know the feeling. And then
Yeah.
we go, oh, it's because I don't believe this is going to happen that I feel so
Mhm.
anxious or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know if you do you find this with your clients where a lot of times it's a lot easier to say your feelings, but then it's can be hard to actually
hmm
express out loud because once you do, like we were just saying, once you do put it out loud, the other part of your brain's like, well, that's silly.
Yeah.
Or we can overcome that.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's just self-indulgent, right? Sometimes I just want to sit and
Mm,
feel frustrated. And I know I
yeah.
have the tools to get myself out of frustration, but I'm
Right.
just enjoying frustration right now. And that's totally okay too.
Hmm.
You can just sit and be anxious or angry or frustrated. That's a very important aspect of life
Yeah.
is learning to feel negative emotion. But when you're ready to be done with it, now you know what to do. You go find the thought that's causing it. You work on it a little bit. Do I really believe that's true? Do I want to hold on to it? Is there anything else that I could believe that is also
Mhm.
true and could move me into empowerment?
I love that. A couple other signs that we could talk about this flight, all of the things our amygdala does with inaction. When we get to
Mhm.
freeze, if we're not taking action, I'm starting to see it exhibit in things like, okay, I'm going to go scroll TikTok right now,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to
Mhm.
go on social media. I'm going to go get distracted on Netflix. Like it feels like that is our new freeze state in a lot of places that
Yeah.
we've been seeing
Mhm.
this too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the term we use in the life coaching world is we're buffering. So we're going out to find something that's going to keep us from feeling those emotions, right? So
Yeah.
my kids are freaking out and yelling at me, so I'm going to go sit in the corner and scroll Instagram, so I don't
Mhm.
have to deal with the uncomfortable emotion of him hurting her and him needing this and whatever. Like I'm just going to go buffer
Mhm.
from anything negative that's around me. And it's not something we need to beat ourselves up over, but just to be aware, right? Just that
Mhm.
awareness of interesting. I had a long day, so I need some sort of a nervous system regulation right now. Do I want it to be Instagram? It can be. Or
Right.
do I want it to be going on a walk? Maybe I could take a kid with me. Do I want it to be laying down for 5 minutes, or what do I need right now?
Yeah, exactly. You need to find that dopamine hit, because that's what social is doing for you, right? It's
Yeah.
feeding that brain that wanted to just freeze up. Now it
Yep.
feels like it's taking action, even though there's no result.
Yeah. Even though it's just reels.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So finding that dopamine hit. I love it. Going for a walk, having conversation, doing something that's going to give you that connection and that interaction.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, Bonnie, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time and all the tips and things that I feel like people can do right away to get started. But
Yeah.
if people
Thanks for
want
having
more
me.
from you, how can they find you?
Yeah, of course. You can check me out on my website. It's bonniewiscombe.com, or I'm most active on Instagram, just under Bonnie Wiscombe. And then I also have a download for anyone who is interested that I've created called Mindset for Working Moms. So if this sounds familiar to you, maybe you feel really plagued by indecision or guilt or overwhelm or any of those emotions that are pretty popular for us working moms when things feel like they're out of control, you can download that as well. It's bonniewiscombe.com/mindset.
Great. Love it. Thank you so much. Again, I just enjoy having you. And oh my gosh, 10 kiddos. They're lucky to have you, Bonnie.
I'm just surprised nobody yelled while we were on our recording. So thank
Yeah,
goodness.
they're so quiet. It's like you have a magic wand. Beautiful.
We got lucky today. Thanks so much for having me, Lisa.
Thank you.